नमः। हरिः ओम्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। अतः श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता द्वादशोऽध्यायः। अर्जुन उवाच एवं सततयुक्ता ये भक्ता त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरमव्यक्तं तेषां के योगवित्तमाः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यावेश्य मनो ये माम् नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमा मताः। ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवम् सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति माम् एव सर्वभूतहिते रताः। क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहवद्भिरवाप्यते। ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम्। मय्येव मन आदस्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत भूतुं न संशयः। अत चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय। अभ्यासेऽप्यसमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि। तैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुमद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यथात्मवान्। श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानात् ध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागः त्यागात् शान्तिरनन्तरम्। अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखः सुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः। मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः। हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यतः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः स मे प्रियः समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः। ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धदाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः। हरिः ओम तत्सत्।
Thank you very much, Krishna. Most revered Swami Shantivatananji Maharaj has just joined us. We cordially, heartily, and reverentially welcome Most revered Maharaj to our program. Now I request Shri Vishwanath Ichvi. Shri Vishwanath Ichvi sir is the founder of Sharada Gurukula in Bangalore. Apart from the regular bhajans conducted in the Ramakrishna Mutt and the albums released by the Ramakrishna Mutt, Sharada Gurukula stands out as one of the most prominent group which spreads the message of the Holy Triode through the bhajans in Bangalore and all over Karnataka. And their albums have been very popular in Amazon Prime and this iTunes Music also. So we're extremely happy to welcome Shri Vishwanath H.V. sir on behalf of Swami Vivekananda Indian Revival Movement and all the volunteers assembled here. We welcome you, sir. We request you to kindly take over and take us to the divine realm with your music. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Jai Ram Krishna. ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ಭಕ್ತ ಮಿತ್ರರಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಂದಿನ ಭಜನೆಯನ್ನ ಆರಂಭಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣ ಸಂಘ ಸ್ತೋತ್ರಂ. ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮಸ್ಥಾಪಕಸ್ತ್ವಂ ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮಸ್ವರೂಪಕಃ ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮಸ್ಥಾಪಕಸ್ತ್ವಂ ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮಸ್ವರೂಪಕಃ ಆಚಾರ್ಯಾಣಾಂ ಮಹಾಚಾರ್ಯೋ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣಾಯ ತೇ ನಮಃ. ಯಥಾಗ್ನೇರ್ದಾಹಿಕಾ ಶಕ್ತಿ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣೇ ಸ್ಥಿತಾ ಹಿಯಾ ಯಥಾಗ್ನೇರ್ದಾಹಿಕಾ ಶಕ್ತಿ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣೇ ಸ್ಥಿತಾ ಹಿಯಾ ಸರ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾ ಸ್ವರೂಪಾಂ ಶಾರದಾಂ ಪ್ರಣಮಾಮ್ಯಹಂ. ಪರತತ್ವೇ ಸದಾ ಲೀನೋ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣ ಸಮಾಜ್ಞಯಾ ಪರತತ್ವೇ ಸದಾ ಲೀನೋ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣ ಸಮಾಜ್ಞಯಾ ಯೋ ಧರ್ಮಸ್ಥಾಪನರತೋ ವೀರೇಶಂತಂ ನಮಾಮ್ಯಹಂ. ಕಾಲಿಂದಿ ಫುಲ್ಲಕಮಲೇ ಮಾಧವೇನ ಕ್ರೀಡಾರತ ಕಾಲಿಂದಿ ಫುಲ್ಲಕಮಲೇ ಮಾಧವೇನ ಕ್ರೀಡಾರತ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾನಂದ ನಮಸ್ತುಭ್ಯಂ ಸದ್ಗುರೋ ಲೋಕನಾಯಕ. ಯೋಗಾನಂದ ಪ್ರೇಮಾನಂದಶ್ಚಾನ್ಯೇ ವೈಯೇ ಚ ಪಾರ್ಷದಾಃ. ಯೋಗಾನಂದ ಪ್ರೇಮಾನಂದಶ್ಚಾನ್ಯೇ ವೈಯೇ ಚ ಪಾರ್ಷದಾಃ. ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣಗತ ಪ್ರಾಣಾಃ ಸರ್ವಾಂತಾನ್ ಪ್ರಣಮಾಮ್ಯಹಂ. ಸರ್ವಾಂತಾನ್ ಪ್ರಣಮಾಮ್ಯಹಂ. ಸರ್ವಾಂತಾನ್ ಪ್ರಣಮಾಮ್ಯಹಂ. ಗಿರೀಶ್ ಚಂದ್ರ ಘೋಷರ ಬಂಗಾಳಿ ಕೃತಿ. ಪರಮಹಂಸರು ಇದನ್ನ ಈ ಹಾಡನ್ನ ಈ ನಾಟಕವನ್ನ ವೀಕ್ಷಿಸಿ ಹಾಡನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿ ಆನಂದಪಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಕೇಶವ ಕುರು ಕರುಣಾದೀನಿ ಕುಂಜ ಕಾನನ ಚಾರಿ. ಕೇಶವ ಕುರು ಕರುಣಾದೀನಿ ಕುಂಜ ಕಾನನ ಚಾರಿ. ಮಾಧವ ಮನೋಮೋಹನ ಮಾಧವ ಮನೋಮೋಹನ ಮೋಹನ ಮುರಳೀಧಾರಿ. ಮಾಧವ ಮನೋಮೋಹನ ಮೋಹನ ಮುರಳೀಧಾರಿ. ಹರಿ ಬೋಲ್ ಹರಿ ಬೋಲ್ ಹರಿ ಬೋಲ್ ಮನ ಮಾರ್. ಹರಿ ಬೋಲ್ ಹರಿ ಕ್ಷಮಿಸಿ. ಕೇಶವ ಕುರು ಕರುಣಾದೀನಿ ಕುಂಜ ಕಾನನ ಚಾರಿ. व्रज किशोर कालिया हर. व्रज किशोर कालिया हर. कातर भय भंजना. व्रज किशोर कालिया हर. कातर भय भंजना. नयना बाका बाका शिखी बाका. नयना बाका बाका शिखी बाका. राधिकार दिरंजना. नयना बाका बाका शिखी बाका. राधिकार दिरंजना. गोवर्धन धारणा वन कुसुम भूषण. गोवर्धन धारणा वन कुसुम भूषण. दामोदर कंसदर्पहारी. दामोदर कंसदर्पहारी. श्याम रासरस विहारी. श्याम रासरस विहारी. हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल मन मान. हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल मन मान. केशव कुरु करुणादीनि कुंज कानन चारि. केशव कुरु करुणादीनि कुंज कानन चारि. माधव मनोमोहना माधव मनोमोहना मोहन मुरलीधारी. माधव मनोमोहना मोहन मुरलीधारी. हमारे मुरली वारो श्याम. ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣನನ್ನ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ರೂಪದಿಂದ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವೋ ಆ ರೂಪ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದು ನಮಗೆ ರುಚಿಸೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ನಾವು ಅವನನ್ನ ಗುರುತಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವನ ಆಪ್ತ ಸಖ ಸಖಿಯರು ಹೇಳುವ ಮಾತು. ನೀನು ಯಾವ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದರೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮಗೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ಮಹಾರಾಜರು ಹೇಳೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಇಷ್ಟ ದೈವದ ಮೂರ್ತಿ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಸ್ವೀಕಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವೋ ಅದರ ನಂತರ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ ದೇವತೆಯು ನಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೌಣ ಅಂತ. हमारे मुरली वारो श्याम, हमारे मुरली वारो श्याम, बिन मुरली वनमाल चंद्रिका, बिन मुरली वनमाल चंद्रिका, नहीं पहचानत नाम हमारे मुरली वारो श्याम, हमारे मुरली वारो श्याम. गोपरूप वृंदावन चारी, गोपरूप वृंदावन चारी, ब्रज जन पूरन काम, ब्रज जन पूरन काम, याही सोहित चित्त बड़ो नित, याही सोहित चित्त बड़ो नित, दिन दिन पल छिनयाम हमारी मुरली वारो श्याम, हमारी मुरली वारो नंदीसुर गोवर्धन गोकुल, नंदीसुर गोवर्धन गोकुल, बरसालो विश्राम, बरसालो विश्राम, नागरी दास द्वारिका मथुरा, नागरी दास द्वारिका मथुरा, इन सो काम हमारे मुरली वारो श्याम, हमारी मुरली वारो श्याम, बिन मुरली वनमाल चंद्रिका, बिन मुरली वनमाल चंद्रिका, नहीं पहचानत नाम हमारी मुरली वारो श्याम, हमारी मुरली वारो श्याम. ಮುಂದಿನ ಗೀತೆ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣ ವಚನವೇದದ ಹೃದಯ ಬೃಂದಾವನದಿ ಬಂದು ಮನೆ ಮಾಡಯ್ಯ ಕಮಲಾಪತಿ. ಆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪರಮಾತ್ಮನನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ತಂದುಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಹೇಗೆ, ಅವನ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವವನ್ನ, ಅವನ ಲೀಲೆಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಮನಗಾಣುವುದು ಹೇಗೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಅವನಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವನ ಲೀಲೆಯನ್ನ ಸಾಬೀತು ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದೊಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ. ನೀನು ಆ ಹಿಂದೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿದಂತ ಲೀಲೆಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನಿದ್ದೀನಲ್ಲ, ನನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರಯೋಗ ಮಾಡಿ ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಉದ್ಧಾರ ಮಾಡು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತ ಹಾಡು. ಹೃದಯ ಬೃಂದಾವನದಿ ಬಂದು ಮನೆ ಮಾಡಯ್ಯ, ಹೃದಯ ಬೃಂದಾವನದಿ ಬಂದು ಮನೆ ಮಾಡಯ್ಯ ಕಮಲಾಪತಿ ಕಮಲಾಪತಿ. ಓಹೋ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಪ್ರಿಯನೇ ನನ್ನ ಭಕ್ತಿಯು ನಿನಗೆ, ಓಹೋ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಪ್ರಿಯನೇ ನನ್ನ ಭಕ್ತಿಯು ನಿನಗೆ. ರಾಧಾ ಸಖಿ ರಾಧಾ ಸಖಿ ರಾಧಾ ಸಖಿ. ನನ್ನ ದೇಹವೇ ನಿನ್ನ ನಂದ ಗೋಕುಲವಯ್ಯ, ನನ್ನ ದೇಹವೇ ನಿನ್ನ ನಂದ ಗೋಕುಲವಯ್ಯ. ನನ್ನ ನೇಹವೇ ನಿನಗೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಯಶೋದೆ, ನನ್ನ ದೇಹವೇ ನಿನ್ನ ನಂದ ಗೋಕುಲವಯ್ಯ. ನನ್ನ ನೇಹವೇ ನಿನಗೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಯಶೋದೆ, ನನ್ನ ಮುಕ್ತಿಯ ಬಯಕೆ ಗೋಪನಾರಿಯರಯ್ಯ, ನನ್ನ ಮುಕ್ತಿಯ ಬಯಕೆ ಗೋಪನಾರಿಯರಯ್ಯ. ಬಾಯಿಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಲಸಯ್ಯ, ಇದು ನಿನ್ನದೇ ಇದು ನಿನ್ನದೇ. ಇದನೆತ್ತಿ ಬೀಸುಡಯ್ಯ ನೋಡು ಬಿದ್ದಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, ಇದನೆತ್ತಿ ಬೀಸುಡಯ್ಯ ನೋಡು ಬಿದ್ದಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ನನ್ನ ಪಾಪದ ಭಾರ ಗೋವರ್ಧನ, ಕಂಸಚರರಾಗಿರುವ ಹರಿವರ್ಗಗಳ ಕೊಂದು, ಕಂಸಚರರಾಗಿರುವ ಹರಿವರ್ಗಗಳ ಕೊಂದು. ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ನೆಲಸಯ್ಯ ಜನಾರ್ದನ, ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ನೆಲಸಯ್ಯ ಜನಾರ್ದನ. ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಬಯಲ ಹುಲ್ಲುಗಾವಲ ಚರಿಸು, ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನ ಬಯಲ ಹುಲ್ಲುಗಾವಲ ಚರಿಸು. ನಿನ್ನ ಕರುಣೆಯ ಕೊಳಲ ಸವಿರಾಗದೊಳಗೆನ್ನ ಮನದ ಧೇನುವ ನಿನ್ನ ವಶವಪಡಿಸು, ವಶವಪಡಿಸು. ನನ್ನ ಹೃದಯದ ಕರೆಯ ಯಮುನಾ ನದಿ ತಟದಿ, ನನ್ನ ಹೃದಯದ ಕರೆಯ ಯಮುನಾ ನದಿ ತಟದಿ. ನನ್ನ ಬಯಕೆಯ ವೃಕ್ಷದಡಿಗೆ ನೆಲಸು, ನನ್ನ ಬಯಕೆಯ ವೃಕ್ಷದಡಿಗೆ ನೆಲಸು. ಬೃಂದಾವನದಿ ರಾಖಲನ ಪ್ರೇಮವೇ ನಿನ್ನ ನೀ ತೆರದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂಧಿಸಿರಲು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೃಂದಾವನದಿ ರಾಖಲನ ಪ್ರೇಮವೇ ನಿನ್ನ ನೀ ತೆರದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂಧಿಸಿರಲು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನನು ಕೊಲ್ಲನಾಗಿಸುದೇವ ಎಂದು ಈ ದಾಶರಥಿ ಬೇಡುತ್ತಿಹನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೃಂದಾವನದಿ ರಾಖಲನ ಪ್ರೇಮವೇ ನಿನ್ನ ನೀ ತೆರದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂಧಿಸಿರಲು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೃಂದಾವನದಿ ರಾಖಲನ ಪ್ರೇಮವೇ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹಾಡನ್ನ ಹಾಡಬಹುದಾ ನವೀನವ್ರೆ?
ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿಗಿರಿಂದ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಎರಡು ಅಥವಾ ಮೂರು ಅಂತ ತಗೋಬಹುದು.
ಏಳು ಮೇಲೇಳೇಳು ಸಾಧುವೆ ಹಾಡು ಚಾಗಿಯ ಹಾಡನು ಹಾಡಿನಿಂದೆಚ್ಚರಿಸು ಮಲಗಿಹ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ತಾಯ್ನಾಡನು ದೂರದಡವಿಯೊಳೆಲ್ಲಿ ಲೌಕಿಕ ವಿಷಯ ವಾಸನೆ ಮುಟ್ಟದೋ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಗಿರಿಗೊನೆ ಕಂದರದ ಬಳಿ ಜಗದ ಗಲಿ ಬಿಲಿ ತಟ್ಟದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮವು ಸುಳಿಯದೋ ವೀಣ್ಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜೀವವು ತಿಳಿಯದೋ ಕೀರ್ತಿ ಕಾಂಚನವೆಂಬುವಾಸೆಗಳಿಂದ ಜನಿಸುವ ಭ್ರಾಂತಿಯ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮವು ಪಡೆದು ನಲಿಯುವುದೋ ನಿತ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಶಾಂತಿಯ ನನ್ನಿಯರಿವಾನಂದ ವಾಹಿನಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂತತ ಹರಿಯುವುದೋ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಎಡೆಬಿಡದಿರದ ತೃಪ್ತಿಯ ಝರಿ ನಿರಂತರ ಸುರಿಯುವುದೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂಡಿದ ಹಾಡನುಲಿಯೈ ವೀರ ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂಡಿದ ಹಾಡನುಲಿಯೈ ವೀರ ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್ ಶಾಂತಿ ಸರ್ವರಿಗಿರಲಿ ಹುಲಿಯೈ ಜೀವ ಜಂತುಗಳಾಳಿಗೆ ಹಿಂಸೆಯಾಗದೆ ಇರಲಿ ಎನ್ನಿಂದೆಲ್ಲ ಸೊಗದಲಿ ಬಾಳುಗೆ ಬಾನುಳಾಡುವ ನೆಲದೊಳೋಡುವ ಸರ್ವರಾತ್ಮನು ನಾನಹೇ ನಾಗ ನರಕಗಳಾಸೆ ಭಯಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮನದಿಂದೋಡುವೆ ದೇಹ ಬಾಳ ಬೀಳಲಿ ಅದು ಕರ್ಮ ನದಿಯಲಿ ತೇಲಲಿ ಕೆಲರು ಹಾರಗಳಿಂದ ಸಿಂಗರಿಸದನು ಕೂಗಿಸಿ ಬಾಗಲಿ ಕೆಲರು ಕಾಲಿಂದೊದೆದು ನೂಕಲಿ ಹುಡಿಯೊಳೆ ಹೋಗಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದಿರಲಾರು ಹೊಗಳುವರಾರು ಹೊಗಳಿಸಿಕೊಂಬರು ಹಿಂದೆ ನಿಂದಿಪರೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂಡಲು ಯಾರು ನಿಂದೆಯ ನಿಂಬರು ಪಾಶಗಳ ಕಡಿ ಬಿಸುಡು ಕಿತ್ತಡಿ ಹಾಡು ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ. ಪಾಶಗಳ ಕಡಿ ಬಿಸುಡು ಕಿತ್ತಡಿ ಹಾಡು ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ. ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮಿನಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಂಚನದಾಸೆ ನೆಲೆಯಾಗಿರುವುದೋ, ಸತ್ಯವೆಂಬುವುದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಳಿಯದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮವು ಇರುವುದೋ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಕ್ತಿಯು ನಾಚಿ ತೋರದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಳಿಯುವುದೋ ಭೋಗವು, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೆರೆಯದು ಮಾಯೆ ಬಾಗಿಲನಲ್ಲಿಹುದು ಭವರೋಗವು, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಲಸದು ಚಾಗವು ದಿಟವಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರದು ಯೋಗವು. ಗಗನವೇ ಮನೆ ಹಸುರೆ ಹಾಸಿಗೆ ಮನೆಯು ಸಾಲ್ವುದೆ ಚಾಗಿಗೆ, ಹಸಿಯೋ ಬಿಸಿಯೋ ಬಿದಿಯು ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಹಾರವನ್ನವು ಯೋಗಿಗೆ. ಏನು ತಿಂದರೆ ಏನು ಕುಡಿದರೆ ಏನು ಆತ್ಮಗೆ ಕೊರತೆಯೇ, ಸರ್ವ ಪಾಪವ ತಿಂದು ತೇಗುವ ಗಂಗೆಗೆ ಕೊಳೆ ಕೊರತೆಯೇ. ನೀನು ವಿಂಚೈ ನೀನು ಸಿಡಿಲೈ ಮೊಳಗು ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ. ನೀನು ವಿಂಚೈ ನೀನು ಸಿಡಿಲೈ ಮೊಳಗು ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ. ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್. ನಿಜವನರಿತವರೆಲ್ಲೋ ಕೆಲವರು ನಗುವರುಳಿದವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ, ನಿನ್ನ ಕಂಡರೆ ಹೇ ಮಹಾತ್ಮನೆ ಕುರುಡರೇನನು ಬಲ್ಲರು. ಗಣಿಸದವರನು ಹೋಗು ಮುಕ್ತನೆ ನೀನು ಊರಿಂದೂರಿಗೆ, ಸೊಗವ ಬಯಸದೆ ಅಳಲಿಗಳುಗದೆ ಕತ್ತಲಲಿ ಸಂಚಾರಿಗೆ. ನಿನ್ನ ಬೆಳಕದು ನೀಡಲೈ ಸಂಸಾರ ಮಾಯೆಯ ದೂವೆಲೈ, ಇಂತು ದಿನ ದಿನ ಕರ್ಮ ಶಕ್ತಿಯು ಮುಗಿಯುವವರೆಗೂ ಸಾಗೆಲೈ. ನಾನು ನೀನುಗಳಳಿದು ಆತ್ಮದೊಳಿಳಿದು ಕಡೆಯೊಳು ಹೋಗೆಲೈ. ಏಳು ಮೇಲೇಳೇಳು ಸಾಧುವೆ ಹಾಡು ಚಾಗಿಯ ಹಾಡನು, ಹಾಡಿನಿಂದೆಚ್ಚರಿಸು ಮಲಗಿಹ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ತಾಯ್ನಾಡನು. ತತ್ವಮಸಿ ಎಂದರಿತು ಹಾಡೈ ಧೀರ ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ. ತತ್ವಮಸಿ ಎಂದರಿತು ಹಾಡೈ ಧೀರ ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ. ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್. ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್. ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್.
Thank you so much, Vishwanath sir. It was really great listening to your music and which transported us to the divine realm. As I said earlier, thank you so much for coming down today and being with us. So once again, we welcome all of you. The audience are from different parts of India, so it gives us extreme pleasure to welcome you all. And today we are here to discuss a journey of a monk. So it's one of the most interesting subjects of thought, discussion, and being for the entire human race from the very beginning. So how it is like to be a monk, what makes people to take into the life of monasticism, and even when they become monks, what drives them forward. So these are the questions people have about monasticism. Today we have a very distinguished guest with us. It is I was very fortunate to associate with Maharaj for a very long time. I have seen him from his brahmachari days. I was introduced to Maharaj by another brahmachari Maharaj, and who told me that Kiran Maharaj is a very special person. He said it maybe 10 years back. It was very long back. So Maharaj has just joined ashram that time. He used to come to ashrama to consult Nityasthananji Maharaj. He was a very proficient writer. He used to practice singing, and he also completed his graduation, post-graduation, and he also went on to do his master's degree. I mean, the doctorate also from University of Mysore. We are very fortunate to be present on that occasion. So Maharaj has traveled extensively across Karnataka, and there are not many institutions where he has not gone and inspired the students, be it an engineering college, medical college, primary schools, high schools. Maharaj has gone just about everywhere. And I have seen him from very close angles and how intensely he works. And he's one of the persons who always gave an indication that he is meant for doing great things. And his guru is Srimad Swami Ranganathananji Maharaj. Just the way Srimad Swami Ranganathananji was so versatile, and he inspired so many people, especially the government servants, educational institutions, and all. Even Kiran Maharaj, that Shantivrata Anandji, has inspired a lot of students, and he continues to do so with his writing, with his speeches, and all. Today, we are extremely fortunate and happy to have him with us. And also during this COVID pandemic, Maharaj organized a mammoth relief work in Mysore with the help of the Vivekananda Youth Forum under the banner "We Care for You." They served more than thousands of destitute people, which included transgenders, also poor people who were on the roadside. They supplied them food. They gave them scholarship also after post the pandemic under the name Sharada Vidyarthi Vedana. So Maharaj has involved himself totally to spread the message of Swami Vivekananda, Shri Bhagavan Shri Ramakrishna, and Holy Mother. And having associated with him for such a long time, for me also it's an emotional moment. Maharaj is living to Ireland now. It's a rarity that a person of age 40 years is given a under 40 actually as charge of a new center in a foreign country also. It speaks volumes about Maharaj's greatness and his knowledge and this commitment and the faith that the senior monks of the order have on him. Maharaj, we are most pleased to have you amongst us, and I heartily welcome you to our program. Thank you so much for joining us in spite of a busy schedule today. Most welcome, Maharaj.
Jai Ram Krishna. Thank you, Navinji.
I will start with one question, Maharaj. This is one question which people have. It has been a question from the very beginning of the history. Even today, people will have, and also in the future also, this question will be asked by people.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what makes a person take into monastic life?
Yeah.
So, and what made you, Maharaj? I think you joined at a very early age. So what was that factor which drove you into monastic life? There were so many opportunities for you outside. The world is so enchanting outside, and all the people surrounding you also, and the media, everything gives us a view that is opposite of monasticism. But in despite all these temptations surrounding you, what was that at an early age you chose to become a monastic?
Yeah, this is a common question asked by many of the youths, especially, and of the middle-aged people, even sometimes devotees, youngsters, and all. So when I was in high school, that is probably the eighth, and not probably, it is in 8th standard, I came into contact with Swamiji, and I was also attracted by his personality. And he suggested me to read Yugavatara Shri Ramakrishna, penned by or authored by Revered Swami Purushottananji Maharaj. I started reading life of Bhagavan Shri Ramakrishna's life. Hardly I'd heard about, except Shri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda's guru, except that I didn't know anything. When I started reading Yugavatara Shri Ramakrishna's life, I was enchanted by, I was mesmerized, I was impressed by Shri Ramakrishna's life, his achievements, his spiritual achievements. Yeah, as Swami Vivekananda puts rightly that Shri Ramakrishna's life is like a spiritual laboratory, his purity, etc., etc. It impressed me. And it also instilled a thought, or it made me to think that anyhow we have to struggle, we have to face a lot of difficulties, we have to face so many things which we are interested or we are not interested. Instead of struggling externally, let me struggle internally and let me achieve the God realization or the self-realization, which is the alpha and omega of the life, which is the true goal of human life, as our scriptures, Upanishads put and Bhagavan Shri Ramakrishna puts. So I was attracted initially by Shri Ramakrishna's life and teachings that made me to embrace this monastic life. And also, the universality is there in this monastic life. Many people, they ask, Swamiji, you got a post-graduation and you got a degree, doctorate and all, but still you renounce this mundane life, empirical life, and you embrace monastic life. Probably you have lost many things, isn't Swamiji? There is a question posed by many youngsters. I say, with all of 20 years of experience in this monastic life, saying that I am the happiest person. When we are there outside, due to the whatever the sense gratification may be there, so many external accomplishments, due to that, definitely we get happiness. But when we renounce it, or when we embrace the whole world, and when we rise ourselves to the spiritual level, we can enjoy more and more happiness, real happiness, and we can enjoy more bliss. But unfortunately, very few people they know it. That is the secret of the life actually. So probably these things made me to embrace this monastic life at a very early age.
Maharaj, do you think this urge for monasticism to renounce comes by birth? Is it something that you think logically and take into?
Yes, it is. See, it does not comes all of a sudden. Definitely, if you see mostly in every monastic, in life of a monastic or a monk, generally you will be religious or spiritual in his temper, purity of mind from his beginning as inception, from his childhood. Generally, they will have a devotion towards God. They'll be interested in spiritual things. They'll be interested in good things. They'll be interested in morality, ethics, and all. Generally, it will be there. And some part of time when we come into contact with the holy monk, when we come into contact with the holy monk, when we contact with the great persons or gurus, or when we come across the good books like complete works of Swami Vivekananda, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Upanishads, whatever the urge for monastic life which was hidden or which was covered probably, that will get opened or that will be manifested according to me. And in this present life and also in the previous life, the samskaras, the desires, the work, the karma, whatever we have done, definitely that is the cause for this monastic life according.
Great, Maharaj. So we have been going through the life and teachings of most revered Srimad Swami Ranganathananji Maharaj, and I know that you have been initiated to Brahmachari life by Maharaj. Maharaj, much like your guru who traveled across India and educated, enlightened so many people in different spheres, politics, religion, social service, and all that. You have been following its footsteps. One more commonality is that Amara joined in Mysore Center itself, and you also joined in Mysore. And also, Maharaj did his formal education sort of, because he didn't go to this college in Kerala, that is. And when you joined Maharaj, you also joined you joined in Ulsoor, I think. So you did your graduation, post-graduation, and also doctorate degree
program.
in Mysore, in monastic life itself. So like people who are outside the monastic life also, they do graduation, post-graduation, they may get a doctorate also. And you also as a monastic had these credentials. So what was your approach to education? Because when we people outside, in the outside world, when we go to college or post-graduation, mostly we want to have a secured career and we want to make money or maybe experience life. So having given up all these things, this enjoyment of the world, so what was the factor that made it inspired you to do this secular education also?
Well, as our great Guru Swami Ranganathanji Maharaj, I'm trying to follow his footsteps. Of course, he's a great personality. He's called Abhinava Vivekananda. He's a great spiritual dynamo, no doubt. Even I'm not even the speck of dust in front of him. With his infinite grace, I am trying to follow his footsteps. That's all. I'm trying to imbibe his teachings, whatever he has given to this mankind. And second thing, love for wisdom or love for knowledge made me to continue this post-graduation or even PhD or doctorate. Now you may ask me, Swamiji, the post-graduation or doctoral degree, is it mandatory to become the knowledgeable person or to read the books, to study the books? No, it is not so. Only I thought when we do this post-graduation and the doctoral things, we will be bound to read in a systematic way, in a specified way, etc. So that's the reason I took this post-graduation as well as doctorate even after joining. That's one thing. Second thing, after my graduation, the Swami Raghaveshanji Maharaj, who is the present pontiff of Ramakrishna Math Ooty, he insisted me, though after graduation I was not interested in initially that I want to pursue my post-graduation. He said, see, you pursue your post-graduation, that will do help for you, that will bring help for you. Initially, I was reluctant. I said, no, Swamiji, enough. Degree was required to join the Ramakrishna order. That is enough. I'm not interested. I will read many more books, which I'm interested. He said, no, it is better. It is good for you. You do it. He insisted. Almost he ordered, I can say. Then listening to him, I said, okay, Swamiji, whatever you say, I will try to follow. And I pursued my post-graduation after training center, seeing my interest in the studies, seeing my interest in pursuing the knowledge. The headquarters at the end of my training center, the headquarters said, you try to pursue your doctorate. So when the order is required, we will make use of this degree for our administrational purpose. They asked me, and that is the reason they sent me to Mysuru to pursue my doctoral degree or a PhD. That is the reason, because the order gave me the order that you pursue the doctorate. Then I said, okay, Swamiji, and I accepted the decision of the Holy Order and the senior monks, and I just pursued my degree. From that, my knowledge has been increased. So many things, my mental and intellectual gymnasium or intellectual exercises has been done very nicely due to the degree, I feel. I don't have any external accomplishments to be achieved by these degrees like outside people, definitely. But love for wisdom, love for knowledge has been increased by all these things. After doing PhD, I understood how foolish I am, how ignorant I am. I understood after doing my degree, PhD degree. So what is the use of PhD degree for you, if you ask? After finishing my PhD degree, I understood how ignorant I am and how much I am supposed to know. That's all I can say.
That's great, Maharaj. Guru Maharaj said that as long as I live, so long do I learn. So you have been a practical example of that. And Maharaj, you got your PhD, and I was also present on that occasion when your Viva was
in the
conducted.
Vaivasi.
Thanks for, yes, Maharaj. So Maharaj, this is a very important subject you took for PhD, obviously, with your deep research and reading insights and all. So your topic was Swami Vivekananda's concept of man, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, you are right.
Maharaj. So you have done a lot of research on this, and Swami Vivekananda, of course, his whole message was centered upon the divinity of each individual and how to make each individual reach that divinity. Maharaj, can you kindly take us through that concept of man as you have understood from Swami Vivekananda's teachings, your own readings and meditations and tapasya and all?
Yeah, when I studied for my thesis, Swamiji's central philosophy was always the divinity. It was in and around the divinity of man, which is given by Upanishads. Every human being or every being is divine. So this world and our life, everything is a chance to manifest the divinity. That's what Swamiji's whole co-teaching of his entire philosophy, we can say that made me to think and take this subject, the concept of man, according to Swami Vivekananda. The concept of man according to Swami Vivekananda, an analytical study. I took it. Once I went through, I understood each man is divine and unitary in nature. This is what I understood from that. Like every being is divine. Every human being, every living being, or every thing, whatever exists in this world, everything is been colored or everything has been covered by divinity. But in some places, it has been manifested to a certain extent. Some places, or with some beings, it has been manifested to a larger extent. And in the insentient beings or in the things, it is in dormant state and it is not manifested, I can say. This is what I understood now by the Swamiji's philosophy when I studied for philosophy. So, Isha Vasavidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat. So, whatever exists in this world, everything has to be covered by Isha, that is Lord. That means what? Everything is only divine principle, the divinity is the only thing, but we are unable to see. That's what I understood when I studied Swami Vivekananda's philosophy. And this whole human life is a wonderful opportunity, chance to manifest this divinity. And the more and more I manifest the divinity, I will become the better human being. How can you say, Swamiji, if you say a common person, a lay person who doesn't have any knowledge about this divinity, he will leading a common life. At the level of instincts, he will living. But whereas when he's awakened, when his soul is awakened, when he understands that he is divine and his divinity should be manifested, it should be understood properly, he will travel from the level of instinct to the level of intelligence. And further, if he progresses, further he continues, he travels himself from the level of intelligence to the level of intuition. That is what Dhi we say. So to attaining Dhi means what? It is nothing but the manifestation of divinity according to me. So this is what life journey, 3I according to me. What is that? Though we are human beings, we live at the level of instincts. So we have to rise ourselves to the level of intelligence, that is with the level of ideas. And again, we have to rise ourselves to the level of intuition. That is what even the Gayatri mantra, Dhyo Yona Prachodayat, let that intuition be awakened. If you see in Swami Vivekananda, if you see in Sri Ramakrishna, if you see in Ramana Maharshi, if you see in Valmiki, Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, Lopamudra, in all these great people, Rishis and Rishipatnis, this Dhi was awakened. That's why they were able to progress either in the materialistic science or in the spiritual science. So why? Because the divinity has manifested according to me. So understanding this divinity and manifesting the divinity, this is what the core teaching of Swami Vivekananda. That's what I have understood when I studied Swami Vivekananda's philosophy for my doctoral thesis.
Great, it's really insightful to hear that. And Maharaj, when you joined the order as a brahmachari, so we see that you have been very focused and you have risen step above step. I have been watching you from more than 10 years and you have taken a linear curve sort of. Your life has been very focused and you have been able to manifest the divinity. Because when we talk about divinity in everyone, we want some instances to relate to. And that instance I personally have seen in you because you joined at an early age and I've been watching you. You do some great programs you did in RIMSE and during the pandemic you did great works and you have been lecturing all over India. So Maharaj, where does that strength come to you from?
Yeah, Swamiji himself said very clearly that manifest the divinity. Manifest divinity. The power will come, glory will come, strength will come, anything and everything in this world, everything will come. So as you said, I'm trying to manifest the divinity. I'm understood at least intellectually that I am divine. I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not this intellect, I am the divine, Satchit Ananda, absolute existence, consciousness, bliss. So intellectually I've understood to a certain extent. I'm trying to manifest that by Icha, Gnana and Kriya. That's what we see in Lalita Sahasranama also. Like she is a Icha Shakti, Gnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti. So with these three powers, I'm trying to manifest the divinity. The more and more we manifest the divinity, a lot of strength we get it to face the external adverse circumstances as well as internal adverse circumstances. Both will be able to face and will be able to cross over. So by manifesting the divinity, probably whatever I am able to do, the little service, so we say in Kannada, Alilu Seve, whatever we are able to do, that is by probably by trying to manifest the divinity which is hidden in me or which is in my nature, and following the footsteps of Holy Trio and great Guru and this holy order and all the monks, whatever the great monks, they have led their life, trying to understand their life and teaching, trying to practice that in my life, probably that has developed me for this larger extent, I believe. And probably I had got very urge, very strong that I should do something. I should do something. This life is a wonderful opportunity. Like Sasyamiva Martya Pachite Sasyamiva Jayate Punaha. This is the told by Nachiketa that like even the plants will grow and after some time it lives and it dies. So even human being, he takes, I mean, he or she bonds and he eats something, he does something, he or she leads his life and he or she dies. Then what is the difference between a plant and animal or a human being? I am supposed to do something. I'm supposed to achieve something. I'm supposed to do something. So this urge was there for me even from my childhood days. So after my joining, whatever the senior sadhus told me, however they started to give training, I was receiving, and I was trying to develop myself. And after some years of struggle, I understood I should be more focused on my energy, my time, everything should be focused, and I should be able to concentrate and try to contribute to the society, whatever is possible in way. So for that, I have done a lot of my thinking, a lot of struggles. I did do it. After some time, with Guru Maharaj's grace, Holy Mother, Swamiji's grace, and Guru's grace, and all the senior sadhus' blessings, so I got my answer that what I am supposed to do, in which field or in which stream I am supposed to spend my time and energy. I got it. And with my humble beginning, probably I am doing in whatever possible way.
Maharaj, you're really doing great. Maharaj, another special area of interest for you has been Hinduism. I have seen I have seen many of your lectures, very deep, insightful talks in the mud and also outside. And also a lot of your articles which have also appeared in newspapers and which have come in the form of a book also. So, and also you are very well aware that Swami Vivekananda had a very important message for Hinduism and Thakurji himself had come to rejuvenate Hinduism. And Swamiji felt that the problems in society that we have is not because of the religion, but because of the improper application of religion, and that by applying it properly, so we can rise once more as a nation. That's what Vivekananda said. So this seems to be a very core theme of his Indian work also. So Maharaj, according to you, what we Hindus, of course, there may be people from other religions also. Anyway, that shouldn't be a problem now. So the Hinduism as such, for it to become more vibrant, for it to influence the lives of people themselves, because people don't follow religion because they don't see an absolute meaning in it. So they may go to a temple, they may worship, but at the end of the day, what do they gain from a religion? So how it will help them to grow up in life. So those things become very important. That's why people give up religion, because they can't seem to derive any benefit from being religious. So Maharaj, according to you, what are the things that Hindus must do to rejuvenate Hinduism and to make their own lives more divine?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Thank you, Naveen. So because religion is no more useful for us if any youngsters or any citizen of this country, if they're thinking they're quite wrong. Why? Because Swami Vivekananda, Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, and Holy Mother Sharda Devi came in this yuga, in this time, or in our time, and they have removed all the unwanted things, and they have given the core philosophy. They have given the core part of the religion. So this is what religion means. This is what spirituality means. You try to understand and try to imbibe. So when we read life of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sharda Devi, Swami Vivekananda, and their teachings, definitely we will get clarity and we will get clear picture, probably, according to me. So we'll not have any confusions about religion. Now, well, most of the time we have confusions. We don't have a clarity of thought about religion. Many of the time, religion means for us going to temple, praying something, doing some Ashtotra Archana, doing some homa, havana, or some pujas, and giving our list, keeping our big list in front of deity, that I want good progeny, I want good wife, I want good husband, my parents should be well, I should be well, I should have a lot of wealth. This type of prayers we do and come. Of course, I'm not denying them, or I'm not saying that you should not do. Okay. And going and coming and putting some religious marks, or worshipping, doing some worship in our home shrine or in the some shrines. For this only we have limited ourselves to the religion. That's where the problem is. So this is the one infinitesimal part of the religion actually. So what is religion according to? In the Western part, or in the Western religions, Semitic religions, for them the religion and spirituality is entirely different. For them, religion means it is only merely do's and don'ts and with a God and with the heaven, that's all. But whereas for Hindus, for Indians, and for Sanatana Dharmis, there is no fundamental difference between religion and spirituality. And Swami Vivekananda rightly say that the core, the backbone of the country, of this India, is religion. Without religion, you cannot do anything, because that is the backbone of the country. That is the vitality portion of this country. If you remove the religion, the India ceases to exist. It goes to that extent. Now, what is religion? Religion is realization. It is told very beautifully by Swami Vivekananda in a simplest way. So what is religion? Religion is realization. That is Atma Sakshatkara, Brahma Sakshatkara, or Bhagavat Sakshatkara. So if you see, or if you speak from the psychological point of view, that is what self-actualization. I have to understand myself. The moment I understand who am I, then all the problems ceases to exist. Or myself, I transcend from this mundane life, from this empirical life, from this hustle and bustle of life, then automatically, obviously, I will be able to lead the happiest life. I will be able to lead the blissful life. Now I want wife, I want husband, I'm in need of husband, I'm in need of progeny, I'm in need of so many material things, accomplishments, name, fame, power, glory, whatnot. Why? Because I want to be happy, because I want to be safe, so that my inner satisfaction, I should have it. All these things we see. But unfortunately, the moment you have got maybe good house, good name, fame, power, position, definitely you'll get happiness. You feel you are secure, but it is not complete. A portion of happiness you'll be able to get from building a house, from getting a lucrative job, from getting a handsome salary, from getting a good post in a particular office. Then the real happiness exists when the real happiness, how you can get, by knowing yourself, who are you, like who am I, or aham brahmasmi, or tattvamasi. From bhakti point of view, if you say Bhagavat Sakshatkara, the moment I realize the God or my Ishta Devata, then only I can be happy. But we are unfortunately, knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously, or ignorantly, we are trying to find that happiness in the things, in the world, external world, and the whole of our struggles, at the end of the struggle, we understand that this was the waste of my time. I didn't get it anything, or I got it very little. I would have done something different, etc., etc. Why? Because in the pursuit of happiness, we are trying to find the happiness outside. Because we want to be happy at all times. That's why we need Vedanta. To study Vedanta, they say beautifully. What is that? Atyantika dukkha nivrutti and paramananda prapti. Atyantika dukkha nivrutti means cessation of suffering, cessation of unhappiness completely. not for one moment, not for 1 hour, not for 1 day, not for 1 month, not for 1 year. Complete cessation of suffering, unhappiness, and attaining the supreme bliss, not for again for particular time, at all times. That's why that is the aim and goal of Vedanta from practical aspect, if you see. So that's what actually we want it, but we are trying to find with the external in the external world, but that is not right. And we are not denying it. We are not saying that you should not do, but the real happiness exists in yourself. That is yourself. That is your real nature. That's your true nature. That's what religion is going to teach you. That's why religion is, it is the goal and also it is the way. Religion is realization, means what you understand, means it is the goal and as well as path. Dharmo rakshite rakshata means what? When you practice religion, that protects you, it means what? It is the path as well as goal. When I have studied deeply this statement of Swamiji's religion is realization, which is again our Vedic and Upanishads idea, I got two more corollary from this. Religion is realization, religion is expansion, religion is evolution. Now, what is these two things? It is new thing probably for many of us. Religion is realization, Atma Sakshatkara, Brahma Sakshatkara, self-realization, God realization, self-actualization from psychological point of view to a certain extent. Fine. So religion is expansion. What do you mean by expansion? Expansion of heart and expansion of intellect. That is what religion. If I am becoming more and more religious, if I am becoming more and more spiritual, means what? My heart will be expanded. We can say the best example is Swami Vivekananda's life, Sri Ramakrishna's life, Buddha's life, all the great people's life. Their heart was expanded. Even Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi's life. They embraced the whole humanity because of their large-heartedness. So when the moment you become more and more religious, your heart gets expanded and intellect will be expanded. We have got narrow thinkings, we have got wrong thinking, we have got prejudice. All these prejudices will go and our thinking also will be expanded. The whole humanity will be able to cover, will be able to embrace. That is what expansion. Then religion is, according to me, it is an evolution. What is evolution? From amoeba, we are already evolved ourselves, and we have become the human beings. That is the greatest creation of this earth. Then what is there to be evolved? If you ask me, again, from animalness, I have to become human, and from human, I have to evolve and I have to attain, I have to understand, I have to realize that I am divine. From the animalness, though I may be a born human being, I've got a human body, many times we behave like animals or worse than animals even sometimes. So from the, again, instinctive living from the animalness, we have to transfer ourselves to the intelligence level, to the level of intelligence, to become a gentleman, gentlewoman, or a gentle human being. And again, we have to transfer ourselves, we have to evolve ourselves to become the divine. Aham Brahmasmi Artattvamasi, that is the divinity principle. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. So the divinity principle you have to understand, to realize that is what I mean evolution. So religion is realization, expansion, and evolution. But if you see, if you seriously study, if you seriously think and cogitate about this, the whole life process is embedded in this, just like the in the computer views, chips and all their things are embedded. So similarly, the whole life journey, the whole philosophy of the every great person has been beautifully embedded in this one word called religion. That's why we need religion. And to become the better human beings, we need religion. Then you may say, Swamiji, in the name of religion, a lot of bloodshed has happened. Then how can you say from religion we can become better human beings? If you practice religion, then there will be no problem in the society as well as at the level of individual, or the level of country, or at the level of world. Where then a problem comes? When you use religion, then only the problem starts. When you practice religion, there is no problem. When you use the religion as a tool to fulfill your bonds, to fulfill your wishes, to fulfill your desires, then only all the problem starts, the bloodshed, privileges, all these things, problem starts. So there is no problem in religion by practicing, but when you use only, there is a problem. So we have to understand it properly.
Maharaj, that's great to hear, Maharaj. So you referred to Holy Mother and Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, just the embodiment of religion. Maharaj, you have been in the order for a long time, and you have gone in depth to their teachings and life. Can you bring out some salient points? What are the most important messages from Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother Sharada Devi? And of course, Swamiji, you have been talking about the divinity. But from Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, what are the main things that we have to learn and practice? And he has been the incarnation of this sage. So we'll have a special message for us. What is that message for us, Maharaj?
when Sri Ramakrishna's life, when I've read, few things I have understood and which mesmerized me. For an example, absorption, complete absorption. I think Swamiji tells in one of his saying that take up one idea, make that one ideal your life, think of it, dream of it, live on that idea. Let the brain, muscles, nerves, every part of your body be full of that idea and just leave every other idea alone. This is the way to success. This is what given by Swami Vivekananda. So this can be seen very clearly in the life of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Whatever he used to take with full, complete concentration, his mind, his body, his muscles, his nerves, everything used to be completely absorbed in that thought, in that process, in that sadhana. For example, he practiced for 4 years, he tried to realize Mother Kali. For 4 years, he never thought anything else except how I can realize Mother Kali. So 4 years he struggled and he got realization. Afterwards, he took Madhura Bhava, he took Vatsalya Bhava, he took Sakhya Bhava, Dasya Bhava. And for an example, Dasya Bhava, when he took, he felt that I am an Hanuman and I am trying to worship Lord Sri Rama as my Prabhu. This Bhava, this attitude, we also try to practice, whoever is practicing Dasya Bhava, like this. But in his case, he also tried to use the clothes just like a monkey. And he was also trying to stay on the branches of a tree. And to such an extent, his mind was engrossed in the ideas, as he himself says, a below portion of his backbone has come out, it has ejected out, and just like a small tail portion, he was able to see. Means he was completely absorbed in idea. Similarly, as just like Radha worships Krishna, today's Krishna Janmashtami, as Radha worships Krishna in the Madhura Bhava, similarly he also practiced Madhura Bhava. When he practiced Madhura Bhava, he used to wear the dress just like a woman, he used to walk like a woman, he used to think like a woman, and he was completely absorbed there. And when he took the Advaita Sadhana, Vedanta Sadhana, with the help of Totapuri, he removed all this Nama Rupa Upadhi, name and forms, and completely he was transferred himself from this Nama Rupa Upadhi, and he had just in a few moments or in a few hours, in 1 or 2, 3 days, he was completely absorbed in this Vedantic meditation, and he attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi, where Nama Rupa, everything was diminished there. So in whichever path he used to go, he used to completely take that bhava, his mind, his thoughts, everything was engulfed in that, and in no time, he was successful in that particular spiritual sadhana path. This is the thing which I observed in Sri Ramakrishna. And in his teaching, according to me, Manusho, he says, that is a Bengali word, means be a man, be a human being. Manush, means we are having a human body. In reality, we are not really human beings. We are not really man. Man means not that gender, means human being. Means what? I am supposed to live the dedicated life. I am supposed to live the committed life. I am supposed to live the samskara life, with the fine tuning of our brain, fine tuning of our mind, fine tuning of our thinking, all these things when we do, and we should live the life of God-centered life. Then only we can be really human beings. When we see Sri Ramakrishna's life, this is what I have understood. He led the God-centered life. We are trying to lead the world-centered life. ನಾವು ಪ್ರಪಂಚವನ್ನು ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಅವರು ಭಗವಂತನ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. So that is what the difference between world-centered life and God-centered life. When I have understood what I have understood from Sri Ramakrishna's life is he tried to lead the God-centered life, or the soul's Atman-centered life, or soul-centered life, or spirit-centered life. That's what I have understood from Sri Ramakrishna's life. These are two aspects, and his purity, and his again universal love, his pavitrata, all these things which was mesmerized for me. And in the life of Holy Mother, if you see her universality, he accepted, he embraced everyone. And she went to the extent saying that for me, Swami Shardananda, Sharat Maharaj, Sharat and Amjad, both are one and the same. This is nothing but the Vedantic idea, Advaita Vedantic idea. We can see even in the Bhagavad Gita, Shunishaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Samadarshi, the Brahmagnani, what it will be, how he will be, how you can understand. For him, a dog eater, and the great Pandit, a man of realization. For him, for the Brahmagnani or Sthita Prajna, all these people look alike. Means everyone is inherently or with centrally, everyone is divine. So he doesn't see difference actually in the core. So similarly, we can see in the life of Holy Mother, he saw the Amjad and he showed the love to Amjad as well as the similar way to even Swami Shardananji was himself Brahmagnani, who was the apostle of Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. So she was the greatest Vedantin ever found, we can see. But unfortunately, we don't understand, we don't try to study Holy Mother's life from that aspect or from that angle. Even her last message, if you want peace, do not find fault with others, rather try to find fault within yourself. In the world, no one is stranger, everyone is yours. Means what? There is nothing but the greatest ever possible Advaitic teaching. We have to think, then we will understand. Whatever we say, adhyaropa, adhyasa, that is superimposition. We are superimposing the things, our ideas, our thinking on the world and the people, and we are trying to understand. That's right. He is right, he is not right, he is correct, he is not correct, etc., etc. This type of limited understanding. Why? Because we have been superimposed with our own ideas, with our own colored mind. When Mother says that do not find fault with others, means what? Because your mind is covered, most of the time it may not be true. That's why don't try to fault with others. That's one point. And no one is stranger in the world. Everyone is yours, means what? Everyone is God. Everyone is divine. So that you have to embrace everyone, means what? The divinity principle is there in everyone. If I love someone and if I hate someone, that means what? I'm loving myself, I'm hating myself. That's what Vedanta says. That's what Holy Mother has told in a very simplest way. This is what it is mesmerizing for me, or the beautiful thing which it attracted me in Holy Mother's life. The one more thing which I saw in her life is she was the greatest karma yogi. Her disciples who stayed with Holy Mother, they tell that she used to do work very perfectly and very fast. For example, preparing a betel roll for Sri Ramakrishna, she used to prepare very fast. At the same time, it used to be perfect. However, the perfect betel roll should be like that only. She used to prepare the betel roll, and it should be perfect. And it was very fast, and there was a pleasantness in her doing. ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಅವಳ ಶ್ರೀಮಾತವ್ರ ಸಂತೋಷ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಆನಂದ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಅದ್ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಹ್ಲಾದಕರ ಭಾವನೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. We may do fast, but it may not be pleasantful. He's doing very hurriedly. It doesn't look nice. Many times we do comment. Mother was doing fast, and it was perfect, and there was a pleasantness in her work. That's what I have heard from the disciples of Holy Mother. This should be the probably guiding map. Probably a guiding map or a map for all of us. And also from dawn to dusk, at the early morning, she used to get up, and late nights, she used to go to bed. And she used to do a lot of work, take care of Sri Ramakrishna, take care of the disciples, and etc., etc. But in the midst of this hectic schedule, she was able to do 1 lakh japam. And her mind was always on the above level, in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi level. We see very clearly in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. The disciples of Holy Mother say, even in the life of Holy Mother, she was no lesser than the Sri Ramakrishna. Many times, most of the times, her mind used to be at the very highest level, at the level of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Staying at the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, doing 1 lakh japam, and she used to take care of this household works, and she used to take care of every nook and corner of her house, and she used to take care of every devotee, what is the needs of them, what they do need, either in the Udbodhan, or in the Dakshineshwar, or in the Jairam Bhatti. She used to serve so much people, everyone alike. How? Because she was the greatest Vedantin. She was the greatest Karma Yogi for me, which is really attracted me in Holy Mother's life.
Yeah, the next question, Maharaj. Maharaj, in one of his letters, Swami Vivekananda writes that the future of India has to be of the Vedantic brain and the Islamic body. And he says that however beautiful the theory of the Vedanta may be, it is Islam that has made it practical. And in his mind's eye, you can see the future of India emerging with the Vedantic brain and the Islamic body, Swamiji says. And Maharaj, you know that we have been going through very tough times globally and also in India. And those who follow Ramakrishna, who accept the message of universality, so they want to see, like, what is that message for the harmony of religions, how we can coexist. And from the Vedantic perspective, and also according to the interpretation given by Swamiji and Thakur and Mother, of course. So how do you think we can bring about this communal harmony in the country? How we can mutually coexist without all this strife and quarrel, Maharaj?
Well, this harmony of religion, Harmony of religion is the true and core philosophy of Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma. Because Ekam Sat Vipra Vahuda Vadanti, it was told by our rishis thousands of years before, thousands of years. And mostly our Hindus believe in it. And we have practiced it. Mostly Semitic religions are the people who need the lesson of this communal harmony actually. That's one part. The second is every human being, he may belong to any country, he may belong to any race, he may belong to any religion, he may belong to any cult. When you say that God exists and God is the take care of that, so I am worshipping the God from the particular religion, from the particular angle or from particular the path, fine, I should respect him and I should allow the others also to practice their religion, their understanding, their cult. Here only the problem comes. My religion is only true religion. My religion is the only supreme religion, and everyone has to accept my religion, everyone has to accept my understanding. Otherwise, I will chop their heads, or otherwise I will not allow them to exist, etc., etc. This is the cause for the communal problem, actually. So I like my religion, mother religion. I born in Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma. So I respect it, I love it, I revere it, I respect it, fine, I will follow you. And you respect Christianity, you follow it, I don't mind. If I understand and if I try to feel any some good points in that, right, I will try to imbibe and as a being an Hindu, being a Sanatana Dharmi. And I see some Islam good points, like for an example, as Swami Vivekananda puts, their brotherhood is very strong in them. So beautifully, yes, I try to imbibe that idea in my life, in my religion, in my own religion, in my own way. So this understanding each other and assimilation of ideas, exchange of ideas and assimilation of ideas should be practiced from everyone. I may belong to any country, any religion, any cult. We should allow people to practice their own religion. We should not disturb others' faith. As Bhagavan Shri Krishna told, Bhagavan Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, all our Upanishads, Vedanta has told. And this should be the approach for every human being of every religion, of every country, and of every race. Here only people are not able to understand. If my God is good, how can I say that other gods are not good, other gods are inferior, other gods are not truly gods? This is a stupid idea. This is really a narrow-minded idea, a dogmatic idea. Due to this dogmatism only, due to the immaturity, in the name of religion, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of war, fighting, etc., has happened. So these things should be removed. I have to accept my religion is true for me and it is true, supreme, fine. And at the same time, I should allow others to practice their own religion. Here only the problem comes that probably we have to understand, we have to embrace that all religions are true. As Sri Ramakrishna puts, all religions are true, as many faiths, so many paths. All religions are nothing but the different paths to the same goal. But the moment you understand, then there will be no problem, there will be no communal harm, there will be no communal problem. We have to understand, as Sri Ramakrishna puts, as many faiths, so many paths. That's all I can say that.
Maharaj. Maharaj, in the very beginning, you told me that you have special interest in education, the love for knowledge. And I know that you have been traveling all over Karnataka, hostels, schools, colleges, universities, and all that. You have interacted with a lot of teaching faculty, the students, community, and also the youth from different backgrounds. You have quite a deep understanding of the current education system. So going by the Swami Vivekananda's statement of education being man-making education, by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, intellect is expanded, and the virtue of which one can stand on one's own feet. So this is the Vivekananda's idea. So where do we stand as Vivekananda's conceptualization of education and what we currently practice, and how, because it's a very important thing for us. Swamiji always repeated education, education, education. This is the answer I got. He says for all the problems, the solution is education. So you being an educationist also, so where do you think we can set things right? What needs to be done to improve education system in line with Swami Vivekananda's thoughts?
Yeah, see, our Indian education idea is Savidya ya Vimuktaye. That is education which helps to be liberated, either in the empirical level or at the spiritual level. Education is a tool which helps us to be realized person, to be free person. This should be the nature, aim, goal, scope of the education. But unfortunately, with the influence of westernized education, even our present education system has been narrowed down to the just merely earning bread and butter. Our present education system, the aim and goal, the alpha and omega of the education system or the education is nothing but the getting a degree. Why? Because I will get a job. Why? Because I need a handsome salary, I need a money and social status, etc. So this is 1/10 of the, or that is the one part of the education. Actually, as you rightly told, Swami Vivekananda said beautifully, he has given the complete picture of the education. The beautiful or the all-comprehensive definition of an education is, we want that education by which strength of character is formed, the mind should be expanded, and the expansion of intellect, and one can stand on one's own feet. This is the 4 pillars of education according to me. So every education system of any country, they should probably depend on it, they should give stress. When this is given, whatever the problems at the level of physical level, at the level of mental level, at the level of ethics, and at the level of spirit or spirituality, all these problems at the level of individual and at the level of society or country, all these things are taken care by this proper education system. But unfortunately, though there are many people are saying, but we are not able to bring a lot of change in the education system. But now the National Education Policy 2020 or 2021 is the new silver line for all of us. When I have gone through this national education policy, I have got some hope that definitely there will be a good change in the education system, I'm thinking. But I don't know how this, our leaders, how they'll be implementing and how they'll make it successful. I don't know. I have got my own doubts and questions too about it. But if every individual, every Indian citizen, if they strongly think and if they can contribute according to their might, according to their capacity, and according to their understanding to improve our education system, definitely our country will progress, because Swami Vivekananda rightly put, education the panacea to all our problems. And one more idea or one more definition of Swamiji's on education, which is the dearest to me, is education is the nervous association of ideas. This is one of the greatest or beautiful concept on education, according to me. So this also we have to cogitate, we have to think more about this. What is education? Education is the nervous association of ideas. Yeah, thank you.
Maharaj, during the pandemic, you were able to mobilize so much of youth power towards service. It was astonishing actually to see the number of youth, especially during the pandemic, when people are not allowed to come out also, you were able to get them together and unleash a great service activity in the Mysore region especially. And that energy, I could talk to a lot of volunteers, they were telling that they never felt like that before. And this is the kind of enthusiasm Swami Vivekananda wanted us to have always with us. So he said that it shouldn't be momentary, but it should be continuous to make a new India. And you have been a practical example of that. But going forward, Maharaj, what is your message to the youth? Especially those who wake up when a calamity happens or some situation demands it. But nation building is not something, it's one of a moment. You have to continuously engage in it. So it's something that you have made your life's mission. Swami Vivekananda made his life's mission, and so many great monks and patriots have made their life's mission. So where do you think the youth can involve more and more? How they can do it?
Well, many times I do tell that I will be telling with the seniors or the aged people, don't abuse or don't scold the youths are like useless, you are useless, you are useless. They are not useless, they are useless. They are not useless, they are useless. So what's the difference between useless and useless? Useless means is of no use. In the use, they are not useless. Rather, their energy, their thinking, their strength, or their capacity has not been channelized properly. They have not been guided properly, according to me, even the seniors, our parents, our teachers. So if we can give the love and we can make them understand what you are supposed to do, what you can do, what you cannot do, and etc., definitely they will listen to us. They will be able to do much more things, either in their personal life or even to the society. So probably you have to channelize themselves. You have to assure the confidence in them that you can do something, you are something, you are not nothing. So this confidence we have to assure them. And we have to give the positive mindset for them, and that service mindedness, philanthropic mindedness, what is the necessity and what is the importance of it. All these things, if we can give, then definitely they will be the useful people. That's what I have tried to do. And Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna Swami Vivekananda has made me an instrument to channelize some youth power. That's all I can say. It is not of me, it is of my master, of my Sri Ramakrishna. Well, if any youth ask me, then I give these two words. One is seve, the other is sadhane. Seva and sadhana. So this should be the formula for every youth, according to me. So what is a sadhana? Sadhana means achieving something. Like for an example, I want to be a monk. I want to be an IS officer. I want to be a political entrepreneur. I want to be a business entrepreneur. I want to be a politician. I want to be a great philanthropist. So this is a goal. So I should struggle myself to reach that goal. So this is sadhana at the level of individual level. And the sadhanas, and there are so many people now who are great industrialists, who are great businessmen, who are great bureaucrat officers and all, but they have limited their contribution to their personal level. So society is not much benefited from this. So we are, as being the follower of Swamiji and as a true human being, we should not stop ourselves from the sadhana. It should also, extend to the seva or service. Whatever I have got, because due to this mother country, holy mother, this holy motherland, due to this motherland, due to the people, due to the citizens, with every like farmer, with every soldier, every teacher, every person, knowingly or unknowingly, they have contributed their might, they have contributed something to society. As a result, till now, I have lived the life until now I have come back. I have come up to this extent. So it is also my prime responsibility to give something back to society in my humble way, whatever is possible. So seva, that's what seva. Seva is the medium or the mode by which I will be able to serve the society. That is my duty also. So according to me, every youth has to do this sadhana and seva, keeping this. And if they can practice, if they can imbibe, definitely they will also progress and the country will also progress. Instead of complaining, instead of criticizing the country, system, people, elders, etc., we should take the responsibilities up on our shoulders, and whatever is possible, we should struggle and we should achieve something in our personal life to the extent possible, and we should also be able to contribute to serve the mother country and the people, our own people, to the possible extent. Then the country will progress according to me. Seva and sadhana.
Great, Maharaj. I have one final question for you, Maharaj. So you're going to take charge as the head of this Ramakrishna Vedanta Center in Dublin, Ireland. It also happens to be the birthplace of Sister Nivedita also. You should be really happy to go there. Maharaj, looking at Swami Vivekananda's vision for the global harmony and the propagation of the Vedantic message, and to bring about that cultural interchange between the East and the West. So, what is your approach to the new assignment that you have been given by the headquarters, and what can we expect you to do there, Maharaj?
Whatever has done Swami Vivekananda, so just we are trying to follow his footsteps. That's all. When I go, as on now, in my mind, the idea is that try to preach the Vedanta for the Western people. The moment when we try to preach the Vedanta, the moment when they understand that we are not born sinners, we are really divine people, definitely it ushers the self-confidence, it ushers a silver line, it ushers the happiness and so many possibilities for them. Like when I say that I am divine or you are divine, it is nothing but the science of human possibilities, infinite possibilities. It's a science of infinite possibilities. We have to understand that. So when I say that I'm not a sinner, I'm not the born sinner, I'm the divine principle. So what is the practical application? The practical approach, what will be the effect of it? That it is the science of infinite possibilities. So that gives the positive mindset of for every human being of any country or of any race. So try to preach Vedanta means what? Try to preach the divinity of the soul, as that is the core teaching of Swami Vivekananda. So even I also want to teach this Vedanta to the Western part or Western people, and try to understand their culture and also make them understand our culture, and to our people to understand their culture. Probably let us try to build a bridge between the East and West. Of course, it is already there now. So just where we can increase it more probably. So in that way, I will try to do my humble service, whatever is possible. Mainly my core idea is try to preach Vedanta for them.
Extraordinary, Maharaj. Maharaj, you have been very kind enough to give us time today, and I look forward to interact with you again and again, probably over Zoom. And it was a great fortune for me to be working with you in some programs and to see you from close angles. And it was been very inspirational for me and for all of us in our Swami Vivekananda Indian revival movement, especially because you used to come to our programs, and so I always remember and cherish those moments. And we are extremely grateful to you, Maharaj, for taking time today to be with us amidst your busy schedule. We all wish you a very happy stay in Ireland. I'm sure by Guru's grace and by Bhagwan Ramakrishna's blessings and Mother's blessings again. So everything will go well. We wish you all the best, Maharaj. Thank you so much today, Maharaj. So thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Nevinji, for giving this wonderful opportunity to share my views. And I thank all the online viewers for giving this patient hearing. May Bhagwan Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sharda Devi, Swami Vivekananda, and Bhagwan Krishna on his birthday, let them shower their choicest blessings on all of us, so that we shall understand who are we, and we shall be happy at all times. May them give this enough strength for them to pursue the life of happiness, the path of true happiness. Thank you. Jai Ram Krishna. Jai Krishna.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.